whatever you can remember, trying to get down on tape. Thinking back to your grandparents. They came from where? On your mother's side.
My mother's side, I only knew my grandmother. She lived in Linden, New Jersey with her other daughter and son-in-law. And she was a wonderful, wonderful woman, and she died eventually when they had the influenza epidemic. My grandfather I never knew.
Was she an older woman when she died?
Yes, she was an older woman. And she was the one during the war, the first war, taught me how to knit. She was my original teacher, khaki wool.
Khaki wool?
I said, but the knitting for Britain at that time, you know, when they were saying it. And
how old were you when you started knitting?
oh, I must have been about 7, 8 years old. You know, just knitting little things. And my mother's original name was Shannon, Chanin, and she came over with part of her family. Not
From where?
They came from Russia. Molovgabedna.
That's the name of the city?
City, Molovgabedna. And she was introduced to my...
Wait, before you do that, do you know why they came over? Were they having the
No, they
problems,
came they just came to stay in America. They didn't have any problems.
Okay, she came over with her parents? Your mother?
No, she came over with my uncle. My aunt Annie was the first one here, and she came here with her husband, who was a first cousin, and my grandmother. Then my mother came with my uncle,
Her brother.
yeah. And
Where they settled? North?
they settled in, my aunt settled in Linden, New Jersey.
Yeah, when they came over, they were adults already. They were
Oh,
grown.
yeah. Well, my mother was a girl, you know, young girl. And
Teenager?
no,
20s,
in
30s?
the 20s.
Okay.
In their 20s. But they were on their own. My mother was introduced to my father very shortly after she came here. And my father was sent here from Romania because he shouldn't have to serve in the army. His parents sent him here. He also, as far as I know, only had a mother living. The father was dead. I never knew I had a grandfather. Then
He came to live in Newark. When he came over, they sent him to live with the cousins you had told me.
yes, yeah.
What's their name again?
Rosinski.
In Newark.
Yeah, and they got married and they struggled, you know.
How did they, you know how they met each other?
They were introduced by family, by family. And
Was it a match?
it was a match. It wasn't really a match. It was a introduction.
Then they fell in love and they dated, or that kind of a thing, or they didn't do it in those days?
Well, it was a match, I should say, because they were really never in love with each other. It was a marriage of convenience. My mother was a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
But then after, I found out years later that he was always in love with my aunt, who was the wife of my mother's brother, Solomon Shannon. He was always in love with her. And after my uncle passed away...
What was her name that he was, the woman he was in love
Clara.
with? Oh, Clara. Oh, that's the one he ended up marrying?
Ben,
Ben.
Paul, and Harry's
Mother.
mother.
Ah.
So after, but they waited. They kept us, you know, until they, you know, their spouses passed away. Then they got married. You know, about a year. He was respectful. He waited about a year after my mother died. He respected. He gave us that courtesy. And then he married. He was married to my aunt about over 10 years. And it was a very happy marriage. They were very happy. And it was good for me also because I didn't have to, worry about him being alone or moving in with me. He had a lovely home, and she was wonderful to us.
I never particularly cared for her.
Well, she was the one.
Something
She was
about
the
her
one that she always, when you came to visit, she was the one we used to joke about. Ja, dat was dus een glezel thee.
You don't want to go to
Yeah, she talked you into saying no, you know.
Yeah.
And she was an excellent dressmaker. She was an excellent dressmaker. Always had headaches, and she used to walk around with a schmuck on her forehead. And it ended up that she died of a tumor of the brain.
Oh, no kidding. They never detected it.
That's right. And the lady is, about a year before she died, which was, my father was married to about 9 years. And I used to go up and help take care of her. See that she was fed.
And what about her children? Why didn't they?
She had the 3 boys, and they never believed her. And they used to say, oh, she's faking, like she did all the years, with the schmuck on the head, with vinegar rigs and all, that she's faking. And little by little, she used to lose control of what she was holding. And they didn't know what was wrong because they didn't operate or anything like that. And she was complaining, so the children themselves used to say, she's only faking. And I used to tell them, look, children, if somebody hollers, it hurts, it hurts. They're not, acting. There's something wrong. And finally, when they had to operate for, to check to see what was wrong, the boy said right away that if it's cancer, don't prolong it, leave it go. And sure enough, they operated. She had a tumor of the brain, and they didn't go any further with any treatment or anything, and she eventually died. They took her home, and my father had a nurse taking care of her, and I used to go up there every single day to see that everything was done. You're Pittsburgh, you were very small.
Yeah. What I remember about her was when we used to call him Zeta, and when he married her, she didn't want us to call him Zeta. It had to be Grandpa. That was really, I never cared for her for something like that. I mean, there's just something about her. The woman seemed really weird.
And afterwards, I used to go up when the woman wasn't there to take care of her. I used to cut up her meat and help feed her, and she was so grateful. She used to take my hands and kiss them. It was unbelievable.
Well, let's go back to when your parents got married, when they married each other.
Yeah.
Where'd they live?
They lived in Broome Street first, and then from Broome Street they moved to Prince Street.
Where were you born?
I was born in Broome Street, and Uncle Ben was born in Prince Street. I was
you
the
were
firstborn, and he was...
Okay, you were both born in the hospital, so you weren't born.
No. I was born by a midwife.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were born at the hospital.
No, midwife. In fact, my mother used to tell me a story that my head, when I was born, was so big that they used to wrap it in rags. Yeah, that's what I never heard of anything like it.
I heard of them binding feet to make them
No, she said my head was so big when I, midwife took her. But Uncle Ben was born in the hospital. And
at Israel Hospital, or
I don't know what hospital at
Yeah.
that time. I think it was the one on Wisconsin Street. It might have been the Bethesda on Wisconsin Street, it was. And High Street, Wisconsin Street down
I
there.
know the only Beth Israel I knew was up on Lion Fancy.
Oh, no,
They used to be
that
so
hospital wasn't there yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
What were you, about 2 years apart?
about 2.5 years apart. Yeah.
Okay, and where'd you go to school?
I went originally to Belmont Avenue School, graduated. Then I went to Central High. And Uncle Ben also went to Belmont. And he went to also Central High.
Okay. Neither one of you went on any further than that.
No. No.
Okay. When you were in school, you took
Commercial course.
yeah.
Yeah, I took a commercial course. I don't remember whether Uncle Ben took. I don't remember, but he never went further than that either. And
your father was a tailor, right?
he wasn't, he was a presser. Only presser clothes.
And you said your mom never worked.
No, she never worked, she never spoke English. She was just a sweet little old-fashioned woman with a heart of gold.
Baked up a storm.
Well, originally in Europe, they owned a bakery. That's where she was fantastic with her baking and cooking. In fact, I have recipes at home that if you ever want it, you can have it, you know.
Yeah, I saw that little book one time, but you never had putting quantities.
Well,
you know,
I have.
Black, you know, little black.
I have a, that was knitting. That was my knitting book that I had. No, I have it in a tin box in my range.
You ever use any of those recipes?
I don't cook. I don't bake.
Did you ever? As you were
Oh yes. Oh, many,
yeah?
many times. Sure. Her cakes and her.
Next time I'm down in Florida, I'll have to look and see what you have. Because
Oh.
I thought one time I saw
have it,
something,
you know.
and the recipe was for challah or something that said a mound of flour, and we couldn't figure
Well,
out how
that's
big
what-
a mound was.
That's why she never. She had the shit recipe.
She should have ironed.
That's right. And I used to have the feel of things, you know, because I knew from watching her, I knew the consistency and I knew how to do things.
I don't think we've mentioned what her name was.
The Hamaliba. And,
In English?
Lillian.
What did the
Lilla.
Nechama-
Lilla.
What would the Nechama be?
Nathan, she was named after a man, the Hamaliba.
Okay, but in English they just called
Yeah,
her
and
Lily.
I was named after my grandmother and my father's mother.
Father's mother, which was, what was her name?
Sure. Sure, I guess, you know.
And your father's name was Max Muzzle.
Now come to wait a minute, no, I was named also after a thing, and I must have been named after my father's father, because my grandmother was still alive.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so I was named after my grandfather, my father's father.
Do you know who Uncle Ben was named after?
Yes, he was named after my mother's father. He was named after the same man. Ben Shannon was named after the same man. Benjamin Litt was named after the same man, his grandfather.
Okay.
And,
All right, after you guys got to, you went from Broome Street to 10th Street?
yeah,
You went to high school?
yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, we ended up at 18th Avenue for many years.
Until you were how
Into
old?
the same, we went into the house, the Brzezinskis owned the house. Those are the cousins of my father.
Right.
They lived in the house for many years.
That's where your father lived when he came over?
Yeah, just, you know, for a short time, and then they probably wanted to get rid of him, so they matched him up. They must have known my mother was somewhere, and they matched the two of them up, and they got married immediately. So, now what else?
Okay. Then when you got out of high school, you went to work?
Yes, I went to work for Sookie Company
As a...
as a contometer operator. I worked there for
That's
10 years.
an interesting machine. I don't think anybody knows what it is anymore.
Yeah, no, it's that. Well, I worked that.
It's like a fancy
Computer.
calculator.
Yeah, a computer, you know, like a...
It's a big calculator. And then,
Yeah, oh boy, and
Yeah,
I worked
tons
those
of
figures, you know.
numbers, like a
The
real big
division,
adding machine.
no, it didn't have a crank, it was electrical, you know, and you can't get figures. But I worked for Sookie Company for 10 and a half years. I worked as a contometer operator for a short time, then I ended up as a bookkeeper. The bookkeeping machines first came into knowledge there.
Yeah.
And they broke me in to be a bookkeeper operator. And I was working there, starting during the Depression. I was making very high salary. I was making $35. At that time, a married man wasn't making that much.
That's a week, right?
Yeah, and from there, at that time, I got married.
Okay, how did you meet Daddy?
Daddy was introduced to me by a friend of his. We used to sit outside on the in front of the house, the porches, years ago.
He lived on the same street or nearby?
Daddy lived in the same street, but I never knew him. He lived about 2 blocks above me. And Eddie Brooks used to come by, and he had a shine for me, and I couldn't stand him.
I don't blame you.
I couldn't stand him. So every time, he had the car. Very few people had a car at that time. Daddy didn't have a car either. So Eddie Brooks stopped by and said, "You want to come for a ride? I want you to meet a friend of mine." So I said, "All right." I went into one of my other girlfriends went in the car, and he took us to a street that there was a dive, and what was there was a pool room. And he went in, and he called. At that time, the pool rooms were really slimy, and he called Daddy out, and he comes out with a dark sweater, turtleneck sweater, I'll never forget it,
and a cap.
and a cap, and with this English brogue, and he introduced me. And then from time to time I saw him,
How old was he at that time? Because I remember him saying that he came over here from England.
I met
when
Daddy
he
when
was
he was about 21, 22, I met him. And then we didn't start keeping company for a long time. Then after we kept company, we were engaged for 3 years because it was during the
How did
Depression.
your parents feel then?
They weren't too excited because I had a chance of marrying a doctor who I couldn't stand. He had a foreign accent.
So did Daddy.
And then also I was...
Daddy's was foreign too.
No, it was a different kind of a foreign accent. It's different. Then I was introduced to Aunt Clara's nephew, who lived in Brighton Beach. He was a pianist, and he felt for me, and I went to their home lots of times, and at that time it was elevator apartments. Whoever heard of something like that? Real ritzy. And they all had me already married him, but I couldn't stand him because he was very Fagler-like. He was so feminine.
Otherwise known as gay.
but he wasn't. Because I wanted something, was down to earth. So eventually he married, and he never had children. He married a woman that was quite wealthy, and she was in the dishes that they give out commercial, that you can rent and for restaurants, for hotels, things like that. He married her. But I ended up marrying
What did you
Daddy.
think of Daddy when you first saw him out of the pool hall? What was your first impression? You can be honest.
I thought he was real wild.
You like the excitement?
Yeah. Oh, then and a temper like you never saw in your life.
I know.
In all my married life, everybody used to say, only I could stay married to Grandpa.
Did you married to Herbie?
Well, I have news for you. Just point it to the camera. They are so much alike. They're almost like father and son. Exactly. Because then afterwards, they're as sweet as gold. They fly off the handle and they're just gold. Because I had the most wonderful married life with her. Absolutely wonderful. That's why when Daddy died, I said at the time that no one could take his place. No one. He gave me the bad times, the good times, but
More good times than bad times.
He was just wonderful, wild about your children. He was the best father. And
How long? You said you were going with him for 3 years before you decided to get married?
well, we were engaged for 3 years because we couldn't afford it. Then we did get married. We still couldn't afford our own home.
Why did you? I know you went off to Maryland. Was it where you got? Where were you? You got that?
In Roselle, New Jersey.
Roselle, New Jersey.
The only
You got married by,
reason,
was it Justice of the Peace?
yes, the only reason we did that is because I worked in Swiftman Company, and we needed our salary because Daddy wasn't working. He went into business at the time.
What kind?
Fruit and vegetable near Olympic Park in Newark. Well, it was like Irvington.
Yeah.
And things were
His
tough.
own business.
Yeah, his own business. And Uncle Ben helped him also, and driving the truck and helping him. And they tried to work something out, and it didn't work out. So I had to continue working. But I had to keep it quiet because at that time no one was allowed to continue working if they got married because there was a shortage of jobs. It was still the Depression time. So if you got married, you had to leave so somebody else can get your place. So I kept it quiet. So in order to keep it quiet, I had to go out of Newark because at that time, if you got married, it was posted in the newspaper. So we went to Roselle to get married first. And we had our big wedding planned. A big wedding. I got married in a shul, and my Uncle Solomon catered the whole thing. He got the cold cuts and the delicatessen, and we had it was Herschel Cohn was the rabbi. He was a very well-known rabbi in Avon Avenue. Yeah. And we got married, upstairs. We walked down the aisle in the shul and we were there.
Did your mother and father know that you were going to Roselle to have that other wedding?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
And they didn't go, but what was the purpose? It was only a matter of a couple of months before you were going to have your Hebrew wedding.
Well, so it shouldn't be listed in the newspaper.
But when you had your Hebrew wedding, was that listed?
No, Hebrew wedding is not listed.
So if you had just had the one Hebrew wedding.
Yeah, but then it wasn't legal. They only married in Jewish.
Oh, the rabbi wasn't legally.
No, he just performed a Jewish ceremony.
Everybody got two weddings then in those days?
No, at that time, if you got married, no. How did it work? I just got married in Jewish. Otherwise they go to City Hall and get their license. And I didn't have to get my license in City Hall because I was married already. So I just went for the Jewish wedding.
Oh, okay.
You see?
And do you want it on record
I didn't want to
consummate that marriage?
No, definitely didn't.
You want to tell it to the camera?
Should I tell it? That was for you?
No, you can put it in public.
No,
it's for the kids, for posterity.
No, I'm turning red.
I know you're turning red. I don't even want to.
But Daddy never saw me in the nude.
Oh, we know Daddy never saw you in the nude. You used to get undressed behind the closet door. He always laughed about that.
Like, the only time is when I got seasick on the boat one time,
Well, he had to put you to bed?
When I got so sick, I had to take my girls off and put me to bed. I was so sick that I didn't care what happened.
And after that, you went back to your old ways.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
All right, so now after you got married, the second time, where did you live?
We lived with my mother. We didn't leave her.
After the first marriage, you both lived in your... What did
Daddy was living in my house. He had no place to go because his mother was living with Aunt Sarah in Brighton Beach, in Bensonhurst, because they had a store.
But he was living on 18th Avenue.
No, at that time they had moved out, and he was living in my house,
Well, how did that come about?
Because he had no place to stay. We were engaged. We were going to get married, so he stayed in my place temporarily.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, and then afterwards, when we got married, he continued staying with my mother. My mother was very sick at the time, and I didn't really want to...
What?
She had shortness of breath, bronchitis, and,
Was she asthmatic?
Very badly asthmatic. At that time, now they tell you allergies, at that time, nobody knew it was an allergy. They didn't know what it was. But very short of breath, she could barely breathe. And so I moved in, and stayed with them. And then afterwards, when my mother passed away, I still...
Well, that was on Ridgewood Avenue, though.
Yes.
When did you move to Ridgewood Avenue? That was before I was born?
No, I think you were born on Ridgewood Avenue.
You were in two places on Ridgewood Avenue. Well, you were on one side of the street and then you moved to
Yes,
175.
you were born in Greenberg's house.
On Ridgewood Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, so the four of you had moved to Ridgewood Avenue. Your parents, yourself, and Daddy. And Uncle Ben?
No, not Uncle Ben. Just Daddy and I moved there. Uncle Ben had gotten married.
No, he didn't get married. Well, we're at 175.
He got married a short time after my mother died.
She lived on Ridgewood Avenue, though, with us. I remember her from on Ridgewood Avenue.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
On
Yeah.
175.
My
Ridgewood.
mother died across the street that day.
At 175. We were on the second floor.
175 or 199?
175. I lived there. I remember 175. I don't remember 199. I remember some photographs.
Yeah.
That other house.
Yeah. She
But
died.
I don't remember.
Yeah, she died on Ridgewood Avenue. And Uncle
Okay,
Ben,
yeah,
Uncle Ben was had met Aunt Gertie at the time already.
Well, when you moved to Ridgewood Avenue, did he move with you to Ridgewood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was the five of you.
Yeah.
In
That's
Greenberg's
right.
house.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I was born when you were still in Greenberg's house.
Yes.
Okay, and then I was what, about 3 or 4 when you moved across the street?
Yeah, right.
How come why'd you move across the street?
Because she was a very crazy landlady.
Okay. That's a good enough reason, I guess.
It wasn't very pleasant there.
Okay, when we moved to 175, was Uncle Ben married yet?
Short time after. He got married after my mother died.
Okay. Then right after you died, at what point did she die? Because Billy was born already. Because I remember the time Billy got his head stuck behind the refrigerator.
Yeah, my mother.
And she moved the refrigerator to get him out.
Yeah.
Was that, so Uncle Ben, but I don't remember Uncle Ben living with us. I remember him going off to the army. I remember him being home on, and going away.
That's right. He was in the army. That's why he wasn't living there. But he wasn't married yet.
Okay, but how long was he in the army?
Well, he was married because she
lived with him in Champaign,
Sure.
Illinois.
So they were married already at that point. Sure. But why is it when he came to visit you cried when he left? He was saying it at our place. You know how I can't remember those things? It's so.
I remember.
And Gertie would remember those things.
Probably. I'd have to ask her, but I do remember him being in the army
and coming to
us and going.
Going because you carried on.
But I don't remember where
you used to lay down in the street, Uncle Benny. Uncle Yummy, don't go away, Uncle Yummy.
Yeah. I don't remember meeting in Gert at all. You know, like as him bringing her. I don't even know where he would have slept on Ridgewood Avenue.
Yeah, I know. But, well, he was in service. Well, he came here to visit, so he had to put him up. But when did he get married? Because if he came, it would be with her. But he left with us with baggage and with his duffel bag. That I remember very clearly. We'd have to find out. Man, it's not funny how we forget those things.
Well, you should remember. I was a baby at the time.
Yeah,
I was a little girl. How should I
remember?
remember?
And Gertie would remember definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, she probably would have those things in her head. Okay, at what point did Daddy go to work for the Clinton and Bergen?
When the Clinton and Bergen store closed. I mean, when he went
when
to
he
work.
Started working. The last we discussed was he tried to open a business in Irvington and it didn't work.
Yeah, then he
was out of work.
Then he got a job a short time after that with Clinton and Bergen, and he worked there for about 20 years.
Yeah. At what point did you quit the company?
When I was in my pregnancy, about my 7th month of pregnancy.
At that point, they must have known you were married. They didn't fire you?
Well, at that point, I went to work with a big coat around me, and I told them that I was pregnant, to replace me. So they were trying to get somebody, and the booking machine was an unknown thing. It was so hard. job. They got people in and they just couldn't cope with it. They couldn't run it. So I kept staying there till they would get them to replace me. And so finally I said to him, Mr. Gruber, I said, if you don't replace me, I said, I'm going to have the baby in the office. So they took one of the men and broke him into the bookkeeping machine. So that was so that's when I left, when I was about the 7th, almost the 8th month of pregnancy.
In those days, that was unheard of, huh?
Mm-hmm, sure. So,
and so I was born at Ridgewood Avenue, and Billy and Buddy, I remember Buddy, the day you brought him home from the hospital.
Yeah.
Billy, I don't remember too much except some of his stupid episodes, his
with Perry
carrying on with
he
set fire that one time to the coal yard or something.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. And the time that he used to run away all the time as a baby from the backyard. You put him out in the playpen.
You tied him on with a big rope, and he got up from he used to pick it as a broken playpen, so he picked it up,
From the bottom.
First of all, he got out of his gun suit with the rope around him, because he got stark naked, and he'd get out from underneath the playpen. So then he'd walk around the block, and the police used to pick him up, and
Hang from the factory.
Some of the kids that knew him, came around with a bicycle and said, Mrs. Looper, Billy is around the corner, please have him. So I ran around, and sure enough, from around the corner's factory, so everybody's looking out the windows and looking at him, stark naked, and the police having their glory.
And they were afraid to go near him. The picture I have in my mind is them sitting in their car with the doors open, sort of like this, looking at him, and they had a schmata wrapped around him, and he sort of was like this, as if to say, I dare you to touch me. That's very vivid in my mind.
He was a little bit, he was in diapers yet.
I know. Well, he had taken them off. He didn't have anything.
But I think that his age was still a diaper age. So, but he was tough. He was tough kid to race. He used to get up on top of cars, and the neighbors used to try to catch him. He'd run from one end of the car to the other end. They couldn't get him. He was so fast. And he was a tough kid to raise.
He changed.
Oh yeah. He
mellowed out.
Yeah,
he turned around.
Buddy was a good baby. He was so good to raise. And then he turned out, a little bit risque.
A little bit.
Well,
he ended up in more trouble than what we just found out recently, didn't we?
And Billy was the wild one, and he turned out to be very quiet.
Hard to know what they're going to develop into from when they start out.
You never know. Some of the beauties are born and they turn into the most homely kids, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's true too. What else can we think about here? All right, so we lived on Ridgewood Avenue, and
Then there was the people sold the house to colored people.
Okay. And I was about 12 then, I think.
And we had to get out.
Yeah, because I was going to Bergen Street School.
And the apartments are very, very hard to get.
With children.
With children or it was very, very hard to get an apartment. You had to put up about $600, just to get into an apartment, especially if you had children. And so we decided that we'd have to look for a house. So we were looking in the newspaper, and then we just couldn't find something. And there was one house we went to look at, and the woman wasn't sure, and she just didn't give us a definite answer. We went once to the Record Diner, and we were sitting there, and the woman, Mrs. Cone, the Cones owned it, and she and her husband were there. And she said, "You still want to buy the house?" And we said, "Yeah." So we made a deal right there, and we bought the house.
How much did it cost you?
The house cost us about $17,500. It was a 2.5-story house.
On Shepherd Avenue.
Yeah. And we paid it off just about the time when we were able to start living, like kings and queens without having to pay rent when the neighborhood turned.
Yeah.
So we waited and to see, you know, how bad it would turn, and finally, you know, it got worse and worse, so we sold it. And we sold it actually for what we paid for it. We didn't make any.
You didn't make any
We
money
didn't make
on
any money on
it? We were
it.
there for how many years?
About 20 years.
And it never increased in
Never.
value?
No, except that we saved money for the fact that rent was inexpensive. You know, the way we put a good down payment, and Daddy was working, you know, and
How'd you accumulate all that money for down payment?
luckily Daddy won a number,
$2,500.
$2,500, and at that time you didn't have to have too much money to put down, and we had about $1,000, so we were able to, you know, make a down payment, and it worked out beautiful because it was a lovely house.
Yeah, we were there. We had good
And
years
then, of
there.
course, you know, the two families gave us rental to help pay our rent, so ours wasn't that much. So,
talking about Daddy's gambling and making money, was there a story attached to your engagement ring or not?
no, the story of my engagement was that they knew somebody that was in the jewelry business. He must have, from his home, he used to pick up diamonds, I don't know where, you know what, and they once bought a few size diamonds, and they showed me the different sizes. I should pick out the stone. And I picked out, actually, the larger one. So, then afterwards, Papa Hansa went to the jeweler.
Father's mother.
Yeah. And she had a set, surprised me with a setting. And I come up there one year Rosh Hashanah, and I'm sitting in the rocking chair, and Daddy takes the box, and from the one end of the kitchen, he throws it at me. Instead of come over and give me a kiss and say, give me the ring, he throws it at me. I had to bend down and pick it up. I was when I opened
You're
it up.
romantic, wasn't it?
Oh, far from it, but a good guy. And I opened it up. I was amazed. It was the most gorgeous engagement. I couldn't wait to go to the temple that holiday to show it off to everybody. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought he had won the stone in the craft game.
No. He paid for that. And
So maybe he got the money to pay for it from his gambling money.
No, he never, not really. He didn't make that much money in gambling. He used to play the numbers and, you know, things like that. But he never went overboard. He used to play cards with the boys. But he was never one that really got into debt, never got into debt. And he knew when to stop and when to, you know, go ahead.
I remember one time we were up in Forest Lodge. We used to go for the summers, and they'd come up on the weekend. Didn't he win something?
That was a $2,500.
That was then.
That was a big. That $2,500 at that time was like $10,000 at another time. Because,
that was
that put us on our feet. So
then we were living on Ridgewood Avenue when we were still going to Forest Lodge. So I didn't. I didn't associate the two.
Yeah, no. So it turned out, you know, very good. It came in handy. And then also, you know, when we had the apartment for rent, we rented it to the Cones that time with the
upstairs.
Yeah, with the two families.
Right. And then your father lived in the top floor.
When my aunt Clara died, my stepmother, he moved upstairs, and he lived there for a good many years. And then when he took sick, you know,
he had a number of small strokes, didn't he?
No, he got one major stroke.
Oh, did he? I thought he had. I don't
No, he
remember
never
him
had
ever
a
being in the hospital or
Only
therapy.
one major stroke. Well, I took care of him. I took him downstairs and, you know, got a little better, but he never got out completely. He used to dribble with his foot. He never ended up in the hospital. Now, we found him upstairs one cold winter morning, and luckily Daddy was home and had a cold, so he didn't go to work that day. So Grandpa was still working. He was working for a big store on Springfield Avenue. And the boss called why he didn't show up for work. So I took it for granted. Again, every morning he went to work. I never checked. So I was afraid to go upstairs, but the two of us came out from the vent, and I thought for sure he was dead. But he wasn't, he had a stroke. And we called the doctor, and the doctor said you can't do anything anyway, and he told us what to do. So I made arrangements that Billy would go upstairs and use the apartment, young man, a teenager, would love to have his own apartment. He stayed there, I think, one night, and then he said, no, he won't come
He wasn't going to come home.
Yeah.
Well, where did you put Grandpa to sleep? In the same room with Buddy then? Or did you put Billy upstairs?
Well, Buddy was in your room at that
in the
time.
Sun parlor?
Yeah, in the sun parlor.
Where did I sleep? Or was that after I got married?
Was after you got married. Sure, you weren't there, Shepherd Avenue at that time.
Okay.
No,
I don't remember Billy I don't remember
So
him
the two
being
of them shared,
upstairs.
there was 2 bedrooms in the side room.
You had one bedroom was yours and Daddy's, and then there was
Then
the other
another-
bedroom, Billy and Buddy.
Yeah, there was 2
Shared.
beds, and then one in the sun parlor. So Billy stayed downstairs, in the other bed.
In the sun parlor bed, or Grandpa slept in the sun parlor?
No, Grandpa and Billy stayed in the side room.
Oh, okay, and then
In the
Buddy
twin bed.
slept in the sun parlor.
Buddy stayed in the sun parlor.
It's not a bad room. I like that one.
Yeah, it was lovely.
And this way he could sneak in and out at night,
That-
too, probably,
yeah,
without being known.
That's when he had the fight and that
They broke through the went through the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until yesterday. The bar mitzvah was talking about it. I didn't know.
And he's angry at me because I didn't make the other guy pay. I'm like, you can't get the guy to pay.
Leave it to him. He's still mad, right?
He's still mad at me.
Still mad. All
Because I
right.
made him pay and the other guy didn't pay his share.
Okay, very good.
Because they were supposed to go 50-50.
Very good. Okay, let's see. What else? Do you remember anything about Daddy's history?
Well, he went to school, the Rothschild school, and he got a wonderful Hebrew training.
Where was that? In London?
In England.
London,
Yes. And he was able to read the Hebrew in the books and go to the temple, and he can read it practically without looking at a book. He was very, if he had a proper upbringing, with a father and the money, he would have been a very brilliant man.
How old was he when his father was killed?
He was 3 years old.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was very young.
And he was crushed by
a
horse and wagon
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
against the wall.
And Daddy once was almost killed also when he was 3 years old in London. He used to try and run after Uncle Dave,
I remember that.
and he was hit by a trolley, and that's when he got that big cut,
Yeah, he had the
scar.
stitches,
He had a big scar on his forehead.
And if I recall the story, Uncle Dave ran back to Papa Hunter and yelled, "Joey's dead! Joey's dead!" and scared the living daylights out of her.
Yeah. And
Then he was very close with his grandmother.
yes. His family came over. He had one brother that came over first. Then Uncle Dave came over. Then Aunt Sarah and Grandma, Cyril came over.
Who was she?
Baba Hansa. Baba Hansa
Okay,
came
then
over.
Miss Cyril was an aunt,
An
wasn't
aunt.
she?
Oh, I'll tell you a story about that later.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Did he have twin brothers?
that was the first one that came over. His twin died.
Okay. From pneumonia or something?
Yeah.
As a youngster.
Yeah, and the second one died because of a love affair.
Love affair?
He got heartbroken and he died, the other one.
Oh my
And the
God,
other
I
one
didn't
was
think
very-
those things really happened.
Yeah, and then let me get my thoughts together. Daddy finished, the Rothschild school. Then when he came over here, he went to Cleveland High, the junior high, and he never went past the 9th grade.
He He never got his certificate, his graduation?
Graduation through the 9th grade. That was junior high.
Yeah. When did he get his citizenship?
That was afterwards when we lived.
He was married already?
Yeah, he was married. And Mr. Stable was a witness for him. No, wait a minute, no, that's Mr. Stable. Mr. Stable was a witness from his father when my father got his citizenship. He went with his friends. He got his citizenship, through his friends.
Was he married already when he got his citizenship?
Yes, because at that time he changed his name from Lupu to Luper.
Why?
More modern. Lupu was
But his
more...
name originally was Davidovich, right?
Yes, oh yeah, because of the army mixed up with his father, when his father was in the army.
Okay, let's go through that. His father, his name was Wolf.
Yeah.
William. Wolf Davidovich. Okay. And somehow in the army they screwed up and Wolf meaning Lobo. They used
Lupu.
Lupu.
Lupu's Wolf.
Wolf. Okay, so they used
So they mixed up, the second name came first, the first name came second. So Davidovich is too long, so they used to call him David.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then afterwards, it was David Lupu.
Oh, I see. And then when they came
When they came here, they came under the name of Lupu. And they changed it,
he changed it
he
to
changed
Looper.
it
Uncle
to
Dave
Looper.
never changed it legally to Looper. I thought, from what I heard, he...
But he still signed
used-
everything Looper.
Yeah,
But he didn't
but
change
he didn't
it
change it
legally.
legally.
Right. And then he, as I say, then he went to Cleveland High School through the 9th grade.
Well, at that time, he was like
Yeah.
17 or 18 years
Yeah.
old anyway.
Yeah.
And so I guess he didn't
Yeah, because he
understand.
came over here, he was 16.
Oh, I thought he was 17 when he
No,
came.
he said 16 when he came over. So I know.
Okay, I know he had always said that
And then
there
he
was
went
a difference in the history way they learned it here to what he had learned
Yeah,
it over
so
there.
he went to school for a year, and then he quit when he was 17.
Yeah. Did he used to box or something in England?
Yeah, he used to teach.
He taught boxing?
Yeah, he taught boxing.
He had some medals, didn't he?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was lost somewhere
And
along.
he kept it with him for years and years and years, and then he lost it. He stayed, his mother left London, and he was left with a grandma. And
Okay.
he used to work in a china shop, to make expenses for himself while they were waiting to come over to America, to come to
He was
meet his
going to
mother.
bring his grandmother with him?
Oh, yeah, sure. He wouldn't leave. When she had trouble with her eyes. So,
Like cataracts or something?
yeah. So, when he was ready to leave with her, he gave up his job and the apartment, and they went to come, and they get to what do you call
The
it?
immigration?
Immigration. They wouldn't okay her. They told him he can go and she has to stay because of her eyes. He says, no way. He says, I'm going back with my grandmother. He says, I'm not leaving her. And they went back, and they were there for a short time. They took care of things, her eyes. And then the second time they came back, then they
Let her through
yeah.
too?
And when they went back, the owners of the China shop put them up and took care of them, while they were there.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
nice.
they liked him, They gave him some spending money when he left.
And then they came over here, and Baba Hansa and Uncle Dave were living,
together.
and Aunt Sarah,
Yeah.
they were all living
Yeah,
together
together.
in Jersey, in New Jersey.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then the grandmother died while they were in New Jersey?
Yeah, sure. She died when he was here.
Okay, and then...
And the other brother died. And then Uncle Dave was keeping company. And he went with some friends of his to the east side of New York to visit his boyfriend's girlfriend's cousin.
Yeah.
They went to the east side. When they come to this is a very interesting story. And they go upstairs, and Uncle Dave is looking around, and what he sees on the wall is a picture of himself, his family picture. himself, his mother and father, and Aunt Sarah. And I don't know whether Daddy was on it or whether it was taken before. And he's looking at it and he says to this woman, why have you got the picture up there? She says, that's my brother's family. He's in that picture. And they found that it was his aunt, that they never knew where she was.
Oh my gosh.
That's number 2.
Oh, is that weird?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Now that was the cat side?
Cyril? It was the uncle. Was it the cat side? It was, because it was, the captain. Yeah.
Was
And here
she
was
the
the
one
woman-
that was the rum runner?
I was just going to say, a rum runner and a cigar smoking woman.
Cigars, yeah.
And whenever you went, she had a coal stove in her apartment. They always had Romania coffee and the Demitasse always on the stove. Black, bitter coffee they used to drink all the time. And that's the way she made a living, selling liquor.
That was during Prohibition.
Sure.
She made her own, or
She made her own.
in the bathtub, like they call it bathtub
Well,
gin?
not in the bathtub, but she made it up, you know. She used to sell in the pint bottles.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And they lived in Newark too, New Jersey, didn't they?
No,
Did she?
the name is Cyril?
Oh,
No, she
was
stayed
in
there.
Newark.
She stayed there until she passed away.
Well, the kids that we used to go visit and all, they were in Jersey.
That is the Katz's?
Yeah,
They were all in Jersey.
that was her kids. They were her kids, or?
She was a spinster. She never got married. I don't know the relationship. It was, sure, but it was Baba Katz's, it was a
Sister-in-law.
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 That's why there was no relation to the Katz's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I figured him, because they never came to visit. They never visited her, so I knew there was no relationship.
How is the cat related? That was Bubba Hunter's family?
That was Baba Katz's family,
It's pretty involved.
yeah. Oh, yeah, but family history, you know, the family tree really gets...
The further back you get to spread more and more and more, and you get more and more people to talk about.
Yeah. I thought that wasn't such a...
We don't talk about that side of the family.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back to, let's see, anything more on our end of it that we're bringing us up to date. Okay, we were on Shepherd Avenue, Billy, Buddy, myself. We went to Bergen Street School and we lived on Richmond Avenue. Were the boys ever in Bergen Street? Oh, yeah, they must have been in there. And then we went to Maple Avenue School. And then on to Weequahic High School. And Billy was the only one that went on for college, a gym teacher.
Yeah.
She never did practice teaching, and I think that was about
He
it.
practiced teaching for the first year in Barringer High. He was a teacher for 1 year. But it was very frustrating for him to tell us that he used to give the children exams, a test, and they failed. And he figured, you know, he explained the test to them. And a couple of days later, he'd give them the same test, and they'd have the same thing wrong. They just didn't want to learn. And also, he took your
That was
life.
a rough side of town.
Yes, I was just going to say also that you had to take your liking him to be in school there because the teachers never walked out singly. 2 and 3 teachers at a time walked out.
Why did he take a job there?
Well, he didn't know about it. That's why after a year, you know, he quit and went into commercial livelihood.
He couldn't get a job in another school? Or?
He lost interest already in it. And he figured he could make more money in the commercial line.
Okay, he figured it or Susan figured it?
I think Susan figured because he tried to sell the ice cream, going to the ice cream when it was like relative of hers or a friend of theirs.
Right.
And this guy promised him the world. He'd become a partner and baloney, you know. Her family, whatever they do, is cockeyed, you know, a bunch of nuts.
Okay, very good.
I better be careful what I say, you know.
Did I see this
If they have to check, I better not talk.
We never know who sees this. Okay,
Susan and Billy. You never know with Billy either, you know. So.
okay, what else? What did we miss here, Mama? Anything more about Daddy that you can think of? Any stories?
I can tell you that Uncle Ben, he came home one day and he says to us, I met the girl of my dreams. This is it.
And it was Aunt
And
Gerda.
sure enough, it was Aunt Gerda. And turned out that she's the most wonderful person.
Yeah, they had a
I love her
wonderful marriage.
dearly. She's been wonderful. Really a wonderful, wonderful. She's like a sister. She's really wonderful. Even till today, you know, she makes it a business, you know, every once in a while to come up and spend the weekend at, you know, because I can't get around to her. She has a car, so she, you know, she keeps at a wonderful family
Talking about the
relationship.
car. Remember when Billy was a baby and wouldn't sleep at night, Uncle Ben used to put him in the car and drive him around Winter Park until he fell asleep?
Oh, sure.
Also part of his crazy upbringing.
And what's the matter with me with his children?
With what?
They never wanted to eat. When we used to ride in the car or go in the house, they used to lean against my soft bosom and I used to feed them, and when I had them, they ate.
I don't know about Mark. I know Andrea was a terrible eater.
Oh, Mark was awful.
Well, he used to smell the food all the time.
Well, that's when he was older, Betty. I'm talking little infants, though.
What did he do? Was it fingers or something? It made his eyes go cockeyed. And then I don't know what the hell he did. This weird thing.
Thank God he outgrew that.
Yeah, I noticed Andrea after not liking food too.
He reminded me also, you know, about he was taking care of his uncle, taking after his Uncle Matt. Uncle Matt used to, you know, throw leftovers and children out fast like that. Oh, sure.
I remember babysitting there one day, where I used to sleep overnight, and Andrea was feeding Andrea my high chair. Andrea had gotten, I guess Andrea reached the end of her rope. She picked the kid up by one arm and flung her out of that high chair onto the floor. I mean, I was like, I didn't know how she didn't rip her arm right out of her socket, you know, like, she had just had it, you know.
I never saw her lose a temper with the children.
That one day she did. That one day, that was about the only time I'd ever seen her get like that with the kids, you know, like, but it would be enough to drive you crazy. You know, you just feed her, they don't eat.
Yeah,
She was
frustrating.
so skinny. You know, she looks like undernourished. The only thing she ate was like was stuff that she shouldn't have been eating, like the vitamin pills or whatever those pills were that
A
time.
bottle of aspirin or something.
No, it was something else because it got her on a high, like
Aspirin, but a lot of aspirin it was. Sure, that would
why would excuse me, why would
too much of it, sure.
I didn't think so. I thought it was something else that Aunt Gerda had been taking. And she was up like and couldn't stop talking and like
I know. For hours and hours she was on the, I think when you take a lot of aspirin, it's infection like that too.
Well, no, I never took that many aspirin. I never did that many aspirin, so I wouldn't know. Okay, when did Daddy retire? Well, you were living up on Ross Place then, right? You had sold the house?
Yeah, we were living at
By
Ross
the time you
Place.
sold the house, I was married and out.
Yeah.
Okay, Herbie and I were, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny because we were out talking about selling the house. We got married. We moved into that apartment up in Irvington, in the 3-room apartment. And sometimes at night I'd want to come down into the neighborhood, you know, to see you. He was afraid to let me go down and visit you at night. I should have the doors locked, make sure, you know, because the neighborhood had gotten so bad already.
Yeah.
But then we moved up to Irvington, The boss place.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
About 10 years, I think.
Were you there that long?
Yeah.
Were you, were you working then? While you were still
Well, I was still
outside?
working. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
In fact, my
Well,
neighbor downstairs every once in a while used to take me to work, you know. And then afterwards, Aunt Gertie started to work, so she took off and I used to go to work with Aunt Gertie
you were
or
both at Robert
everything.
Street Savings One.
Yeah.
For the record, you were home with us growing up all those years. And then at what point did Daddy lose you? The Clinton and Berger went out of business and he was
Yeah.
out of work.
Yeah, and then he went to, he got a job in Trenton that he only stayed about a week.
Yeah, but at that point, that's when you went back to work. Wasn't it? 'Cause
No,
Billy
I
was
went
in
back
college?
to work when Buddy was 15 years old.
Why?
Because at that time Billy was going to college, and I
Oh,
needed the extra
Well, I
income.
thought that was when, that he had lost his job at the same time.
No, we needed he was working, but we needed the extra income because tuition went up one year and it was quite high, and we found it difficult. So I wanted to go to work, and
Maybe that's why Buddy got into all that trouble, because you weren't home.
who knows? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So could be I was working at the time, and then
And you continued to work until you both retired.
yeah, sure. Well, I retired first. I retired about almost 5 years before Daddy did, but he didn't want to retire because every time he worked a year more, he would get more retirement, Social Security. He built up the Social Security.
So how old was he by the time he retired?
He retired when he was 70.
Was he 70 already? So then he was only retired for about 4 years before he got sick and died? He was about 70 years.
5 years. We were living in Florida 5 years when he died.
I didn't
That
realize
was
he was
9
that
years
old.
already. 9 years this November.
It's good. Doesn't seem like it's been that long.
No, it doesn't seem like that at all.
Yeah. He started with the lung cancer, right? And then he had the surgery
And
for
the
that.
thing is, he didn't know that he had lung cancer. He went to what do you call the men's prostate. He was having trouble with that, and he made an appointment. And I don't know what, they screwed up the information, and they took an X-ray of the lungs instead of the prostate.
There's a big difference.
It was a crazy mix-up. And I went there, feeling, all right, and Eddie didn't feel that bad. And they, all of a sudden, and it's in the X-ray room, a long time, and then they called me in, so I knew something was wrong. And they put up big things, and they showed me the blank spot.
So they removed part of one lung, not the whole lung.
They removed one lung.
A whole lung?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was part of that.
And then it passed very fast, and he suffered an awful lot. He was in pain the whole time after that. I used to use that liniment that they couldn't get from the doctor, that horse liniment.
Yeah.
And I used to put
Smelled
that
like
on,
that.
and I used to put that on him, and he was so uncomfortable, so in pain all the time. And then finally, they discovered that it was all over.
What I couldn't understand was he was going back every 3 months, and they were checking him out, and he was fine. He was
Yeah.
fine.
Then all of a sudden,
And then, like, all of a sudden, they
Yeah.
said he's covered with it.
yeah, but I can't understand also is when he had the first lung removed, the doctor said it was 100%.
And they didn't give him
No
chemo or
chemo or anything, because I said no chemo, nothing. I felt elated, because I figured, it was just
They got it
wonderful.
all.
But there must have been a spot someplace else in the room.
Never know. Down in Florida, they don't have the best doctors.
That's why I'm hesitating with my cataract. Should I trust them? Because there's a lot in there are so successful that they say don't see any better afterwards than they did before.
Well,
But it may be the
maybe
person.
you ought to look into it and see the doctors up here, get another opinion. You're going to be up here for 4 weeks, check it out. And your arthritis is better since you've had your hip replacement?
Well, no pain in the where the artificial hip is, but you know I'm getting a little bit unsure of my footing. I have to be careful, you know, when I come down a step where I have to have. And this knee, you know, it's not. When I sit long on a chair, see, not on here, but if I lean my leg against it, I have like a cord tightening. So
That's the size. This is the hip replacement.
yeah, that's perfect. It's wonderful. And I went to an orthopedic doctor recently, and he says, all right, so we'll send you for therapy. I went to therapy. It didn't help. He gave me exercise to do in the pool, and I do that, but it's the same thing. But it's not that bad, you know, that I have to go worry about it. It's part of aging. That's all I attribute it to. It's just I have to be careful, you know. I don't have to, can't run up and down steps. So, look, for a woman that's 81, I'm not doing too good.
You're doing great. You can still run rings around me. That's all right. Well. Think of anything else we haven't talked about? Kids would like to know about? Years to come?
Not that I can think of.
Well, if we think of something else, we'll come back and add on.
Yeah, okay.
Now we gotta figure out how to turn this thing on.
Herbie!